Have you ever heard that phrase, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me? I learned that little rhyme when I was really young, and I feel like one, I used it as like a comeback at my sister when she said something mean against me. And I think it was taught to me by my parents, teaching that like, when people say mean things against you, just like put up a guard because like they can't hurt you. But we teach them to children because I think it's actually a lie. Like our words can be so hurtful. Like you can break a bone and you will heal and you will the next year be totally fine. But there are words that you hear that can impact you for the rest of your lives. And so as we say that saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words may never hurt me, know that it's not true. And so in James chapter 3, as we read about taming our tongue, it is so important to realize the impact our words have. Okay, before we jump into James chapter 3, I want to look at Matthew 12 for a second. Jesus is talking to this group of Pharisees. Pharisees, if you're not familiar, are people that, think they are really godly, but don't speak truth at all. And Jesus kind of calls them out for the words that they say. He says this to them: make a tree good and its fruit will be good, or make a tree bad and its fruit will be bad, for a tree is recognized by its fruit. You brood of vipers, how can you who are evil say anything good? For the mouth speaks what its heart is full of. Jesus looks at these group of people that have like these hypocritical hearts that are trying to say things good, and he's calling them out for it by what their words are. He continues and says this: a good man brings good things out of the good stored up in him, and an evil man brings out evil things with the evil stored up with him. But I tell you, everyone will have to give an account on the day of judgment for every empty word they have spoken. By your words you will be acquitted, and by your words you will be condemned. Jesus is saying here that the words you speak are an overflow of what is in your heart. Our character is measured by our words. I think there's no better test of spiritual maturity than the words that you say and how you say them. So in chapter 3, going back to James, he's talking about how important it is to control our tongue. He gives 2 examples here of how impactful the tongue is. He relates it to horses. These huge beasts are controlled by just the bits that we are able to put in their mouth, that we're able to steer this whole entire huge creature just by simply this small thing. And in verse 4, he continues to give the example of a ship. A ship can be thousands of meters in length, and it's controlled by just a rudder in the back. In the same way as these 2 great things are controlled by just one small part of them, our bodies are controlled by sometimes just by the words that we say. James goes even further to compare it to a fire, right? He says this: consider a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. The tongue is also a fire, a world of evil among the parts of the body. It corrupts the whole body, sets the whole course of one's life on fire, and itself is set on fire by hell. My first reaction is like, whoa, James, I feel like you're going a little harsh on this, right? Your body in hell because of your tongue. But realistically, when I stop and think about the impact fires make, and that first small spark that can just destroy so much, I think about my words and how they can do the same thing. If I just say one line of gossip to one other person, one quick spark, how that word and the words that I say can just go out to the world. How I can say one small white lie and it can just get me tangled in a mess of things. Finally, in this passage, he says, but no man can tame the tongue. And when I look at those 2 examples of the horse and the ship, it's so clear that someone is controlling those things. And if no man can control the tongue, how can we be careful of the words that we say? If we want our words to be the good inside of us to be coming out, I think we need to be controlled and steered by God. How can we give him the reins in our life, saying, God, let only good words come out, because I know my tongue is the most destructive thing I have and I can cause so much damage from it. God, how can this be used for good and for your good? I think it's understanding that we can't control our mouths sometimes alone, but we have a God that gives us his word. He gives us his Holy Spirit. He's there with us every step of the way. So if we constantly just stop for ourselves and think about the words that we're saying, think about them in light of who God is, how can we depend on him for them? And if it's not that easy, if just like, I can't just give God control, but confess what you're saying, recognize it, and seek accountability from other people that can point you to him.